Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya al Mursaleen. This is Mujeeb Kazi, and you're watching Dallas Roundup from the studio of Dallas Fort Worth. For centuries we have seen the religions have been used for many reasons. Religion have been exploited by whether it's a political circle or people of faith for their personal gains or political gains, or maybe to create conflicts in the world, or sometimes to just to divide and conquer and create mess basically, and people have used because the religion are the easy targets to be used, fortunately or unfortunately, because not very many people are aware of a detail of the religions. So it becomes a discussion on a faith-based, very sensitive. It becomes very personal, and for some people, it becomes very sacred as well. But it's a very a touchy issue to talk about. And the people of faith and the politicians are, they do have a knowledge and the skill, and they can maneuver things around the way they want to deem fit for their personal gains and whatnot. But over the years, we have seen not everybody does that, and there are people who follow the true teachings of their faith, and they are very honest, and they want to make sure that the religion is reflected to the spirit that it is taught. And and what we have seen in the past decade or so of working with our uh, close friend in our neighborhood, Northwood Church, and the pastors who work there, Bob Robert, as well as the lead pastor, Scott Venable, Dr. Scott Venable, who has been an inspiration, straightforward, upright, and honest man. And that's what counts. That's what brings the credibility to the cause. So I am very humble and honored to have him on our show to discuss why people use religions to exploit and for their personal gains. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Mujeeb. It's always an honor to be with you, and always enjoy serving with you and being in the different places we've been around the world together. And we're all trying to make this world a better place. And you're one of my favorite people, so honored to be on this show today.
It is absolutely my honor as well. And like you said, that we have traveled around the world and we have taken this task to our shoulders. And you guys are inspirational, and you guys are absolutely phenomenal people who have actually delivered on the ground in concrete steps. I know you have organization called Global Net, and then you also have just founded an organization, multi-faith neighborhood network. So give us a rundown on both of these organizations, and what is it that we have accomplished so far.
Yeah, so the founding pastor of Northwood is Dr. Bob Roberts, and when I came to Northwood, he began doing full time an organization called GlocalNet, and then founded with Imam Majid and Rabbi Saperstein a organization called Multi Faith Neighbors Network. And so Dr. Roberts, Bob was able to do that full time when I started leading the church here full time as the pastor. But GlocalNet had been started by Northwood long before that, and Bob was actually pastoring Northwood in doing that both full time. And but we both have been a part of that organization for many years. And GlocalNet focuses on building relationships and engaging cities, as well as starting churches, and then helping those churches engage cities with the same DNA and the same approach as Northwood. And the Multi Faith Neighbors Network um, really came about of how we build on this multi-faith movement. And GlocalNet had begun doing that, but we wanted something that was a little bit more separate from GlocalNet, because GlocalNet also does do some Christian work. We wanted something that was specifically just multi-faith, so that it wouldn't be seen as, we're trying to do this work so that we can convert people or whatever that may be. And so we've done multi-faith retreats, and some of those are really awesome. We've been on a few of those together, but you get a imam, a rabbi, and a pastor. And no, that's not the beginning of a joke. This actually happens. Get together and do a 2 or 3 day retreat, and they're from the same cities and all across the world. We've done this in Abu Dhabi. We've done this in Doha. Done this here across the United States in all sorts of cities. Even in Dallas, there is a group of clerics that are together. And the whole goal is that we can do some things together to better our cities, that will protect one another, stand up for one another's religious rights, and that will engage and make our cities better places, and seek the peace of the city, the salam of the city, not just seek to divide as seems like every other thing is doing in our nation right now.
Because this program is being watched around the globe, and I want you to let people know that, one of the most effective, to my understanding, one of the most effective program in the outreach was to have this imam and pastors retreat. Just imagine, unfortunately, and we have to be honest with ourselves, and that's the best part of our relationship, that we stand truth to our religion, and we were very honest, because without compromising each other religion, we were able to find the common ground. Most of the time, pastors and sometimes imams, they use a certain rhetoric to justify their own claim, and most of the time, if you start criticizing others, it sells the most, unfortunately, and it creates divide. So bringing imams and the pastors together, and then start asking them those hard questions. Otherwise those questions would have been very offensive. I think that was the best part. How did that imam and pastor retreat started, and how many cities that we have reached out, so the people who are watching us around the globe can replicate that?
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage anyone that's in a city that wants to have something like this to reach out to Multi Faith Neighbors Network. You can find us as MFFN, and we would love to come to your city, and do one of these retreats. But I don't know the exact number, but it's over 20 cities in the United States, and then we've done a few in other countries that I mentioned, and we'll keep expanding and going to other countries. As more and more people, the demand is high. More and more people are wanting this in their cities, and they're wanting to see something like this happen. And the format of the retreat came about from Pastor Bob and Imam Majid getting together, and what would best happen at these retreats. And we knew we had to be honest, transparent, deal with the issues that are there, and get everything out on the table. It wouldn't have done any good just to kind of get together and try to, just kind of scratch the surface and then go home. We knew that wouldn't lead to anything. We needed to deal with, what are the stereotypes that are out there? What do Christians really think in our churches about Muslims? What do Muslims really think about Christians? What do we think about Jews, and how do they see us? And we had to deal with all those stereotypes, what people really think. We had to acknowledge that we all have people in our religions that are crazy, that take the teachings and turn them and twist them, and to justify doing evil things. We had to acknowledge that in our own religions in order to speak out against that, and to acknowledge that those were not the true teachings, and how do we move forward. But it helped I'm sure, for Muslims to hear that, Christians, we have people that take the Bible and turn it and twist it, and we don't believe that's true Christianity. And I think it helps for the Jews and the Christians to hear that Muslims take the Quran, some do, and don't stay true to the teachings, and they're not acting on behalf of what true Islam believes. And to get a sigh of relief and a breath that, oh, okay, we're all real humans, we're all real people trying to seek and love God the best way that we know how. And I think the most important thing that you hit on is that at the end of the day, we're also not trying to come to a common belief, that we all believe the exact same thing. We do have some common beliefs, because as Abrahamic faiths, we all come from at least part of the same teachings, and that we have these prophets that we follow. But we're not trying to force someone to convert to one or the other, or to water down what we believe and say, well, no, it's okay. Let's just agree that we actually say, no, we have strong convictions and strong beliefs, and allowing people to hold on to that and yet still work together, seek the peace, and build bridges is what really has made these very successful.
And when we were at the Fort Worth retreat, if I remember correctly, I think we had about 16 imams and pastors, and
Hmm.
they have never interacted with each other before that.
That's
And
right.
that was the first time, and they were housed in a hotel, and that's where they basically shared the meal with each other and then start talking dialogues. And I think thereafter they become the best friends ever.
Yeah.
And there some of them are still in contact with us. Unfortunately, the COVID have diverted us a little bit, but otherwise that would have been the best thing that we could have done it. So you have mentioned that we have so many things that are common in our faiths. The difference, particularly the monotheistic religion and the the Abrahamic religions that we talked. The Islam is the continuation of the Christianity and Judaism, and we all talked about that. Uh, One of the common thing that we can always talk about is the love of God. You just cannot challenge that. That is common in all of them, and love for the neighbors.
Hmm.
Respect for the neighbors. So these are some of the commonalities that we can work on while keeping our the tenets of the faith separate from that. That can probably bring the interfaith harmony. People ask this question, and I'm going to ask you to explain what does exactly mean to have an interfaith harmony in your point of view.
Yeah, I think, harmony and unity doesn't necessarily always mean uniformity. In other words, I don't think we live in such tribalized days. We're polarized, and if you don't agree with me 100%, then that means you're the enemy. And that's the way politics is being done these days. Is the way our even city politics has gotten that way. It's not just national politics, and it's just the way we think. We're ideologically divided, and I don't think we're going to get anywhere as a human race holding on to that type of ideology that if you're not with me 100%, then you're not really with me. I think we have to give people room to disagree on some things. And now, I don't think we should be able to disagree that we're not, completely human or have full rights, or those are things that we need to fight for the laws to protect. But when it comes to our religions, I mean, I think we have to give people room to believe with a I mean, the biggest freedom we should have is the conscience of our mind, the ability to think and to make up to believe what we want to believe. And if you take that away and we try to make everyone uniformed into one belief system, we're going to lose one of the most God-given freedoms that we have. And so to me, interfaith harmony or multi-faith harmony for us is that that's why we like the word multi-faith. There's many faiths. And we
Mhm.
acknowledge there's many faiths. And we want there to be many faiths for a flourishing community to give people the freedoms that they have. Now, I may believe that my faith is the one true faith. And as a Christian, I do believe that. I do believe that Jesus is God. And me and you have had these conversations. We agree on so much. We know about the Quran and how much it elevates and teaches about Jesus. And but there's one thing that my Bible teaches that your Quran doesn't, and that is that Jesus is God. And I don't want it to have to lay that down in order to be in a friendship with you, nor to even be in your mosque. And you've always welcomed me into the masjids in Dallas, Fort Worth, and allowed me to even have that belief. But yet to work together to make our cities better. That's to me what this multi-faith harmony means, is that I see you, Majib, as a dear, dear friend. I see Muslims as dear, dear friends. And yet I acknowledge that we're going to disagree on some things. But what we do agree on is that God is love and that we should love our neighbor and that we should seek the peace of our cities together. And those are some common beliefs that can bring harmony together. But to force people to say they're my enemy because they disagree with me is really what's gotten us in trouble historically. I mean, think about all of the crusades and all the horrible wars that have happened in the name of religion, trying to tell people that they couldn't believe a certain way. And that is the worst approach we could have, and that would not lead to harmony. And so, what we've discovered, I think, is that our friendship, even at a personal level, is a model for what religions can do globally, is what we do together here locally. And that's what's the power of this movement that's taking place.
And you also have this credit on your record that probably have never seen that many Muslims coming to one church at one given time when you hosted them in your church. Give us that story again.
Yeah, we have a few events at our church, and we did I think we called it a halal barbecue, and we had different speakers, but busloads of Muslims showed up to our church. I think it's over 2,000 were at our church, and I'm not going to sit here and say that every Christian in our church was comfortable with that. In fact, there were people that left our church over that, and they were unhappy about that. But I think God was happy about that, and we were very happy about that event. And we've continued to have that. You've been a guest even on a Sunday morning service and have shared in our church. Other Muslims have shared in our church. Prince Turkey has been at our church. Different uh, leaders have been at our church. Imam Majid has been at our church and spoken. And Muslims are always welcome in our church on Sunday mornings. And pre-COVID, that happened at least a couple of times a year. This October, we're doing a thing called Global Faith Forum here at our church. Multi Faith Neighbors Network is hosting that here at Northwood, and President of the Muslim World League will be here. And so other Muslim leaders will be here, as well as Christian leaders and Jewish leaders. And so it's going to be a regular thing at our church, and it's a lot of fun. And like I said, I wish everyone would see it as a positive, like we do, but not everyone does. But that's part of what we're doing, and why we do it is to show that this can happen. And what I love, one of my favorite things every year is the open houses at the mosque that invite us in, and we get to bring our church over to the mosque. And what's interesting, Mujeeb, is that for a lot of Christians, that's the first time they'll ever meet a Muslim, is when they're either at our church or we go to your mosque. And for us, the priority is not just that, but they have Muslim neighbors. Their kids are in school with Muslim students, and what would it look like to break down that barrier to where kids are playing together in homes and we're having neighbors over for dinner. But we're so afraid of one another, and we think everyone is so much different than us. And so these events to us are icebreakers and barrier breakers. They're tearing down walls to let people in our own communities know it's okay to be friends with one another, even though we disagree.
Absolutely. And in addition to those programs, the retreats and the invitation and having those conferences, we do have a program in collaboration with the Northwood Church, which is embraced. That is to have the basically our sisters group.
Uh,
Talk about that also. I know your wife is the lead on that as well.
yeah, we have two or three these embrace groups that are Muslim women and Christian women. And pre-COVID, they were getting together every month. The one that my wife leads with I'm going to mess up her name, the sister from the masjid in Watauga. They lead together. We live in the same neighborhood, and so we have women from the mosque and the church get together, and you know they'll the Christian women will get a lesson on how to cook halal food. Then we'll do something on why do Christians celebrate Christmas and Easter, and then walk through that tradition. And then when this season hits and Ramadan hits, then the Muslim women will walk through what does Ramadan look like? Why do we celebrate Ramadan? What is an iftar? Or what is why dates? Why do we eat dates? And like all these things, and they walk through. So it's cultural exchange as well as religious exchanges, but also it's just building deep, deep friendships. And which it begins to happen is you realize for our sisters that lady is a mother just like I'm a mother.
Mhm.
She has to run a household the way I run a household. There's scheduling, there's school, there's work, there's all these things, and you realize it humanizes one another. We're in culture that dehumanizes everybody, and we dehumanize and demonize what we disagree with. But coming together humanizes one another, and that's what embrace is all about. It's embracing one another, uh, and uh, and that program is a very positive thing for sure.
Absolutely. And you know, every time you come home and you have that conversation, today we met that many people, and this is what we talked about. And just like you said, it's an icebreaker, especially those who have never met people of other faith before that, because we probably end up doing the same grocery store, you know, probably running into
Uh,
each other at the same doctor's office, or maybe at the school, you know, or in the park. But we never had that dialogue taken because people look different, you know what I mean? And I
that's
must
right.
give you credit that you guys have done an amazing job by bringing multi-faith communities together, and have done an amazing job for city of Keller, particularly during the time when we had this ice storm that hit our city, and you know we were out of power, out of water, and you guys open up your church, and you know meal were delivered to those who were in need. And I'm so glad that the city has have you know given you the recognition for that. I mean, those are the steps that we can take as a community collectively, that
That's
can
right.
bridge us. So, what are the steps that Bob Robert is undertaking? If you have any information globally, actually, because I know we work locally, but our impact is global. What are the next step in the pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, there's some things coming up as COVID opens up, more travel. There'll be some retreats and stuff happening overseas in other countries and conferences. The main thing we realize is that religious freedom is a human right. It's not an American right. It's a human right, and it should be in every place. And we believe that what happens here locally, if there's a threat against a mosque, we believe as Christians that we should go and surround that mosque and protect it. And if
And
there's an issue, what's that?
you have done that. Last time you were threatened, you showed up. Yes, I remember
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
and we believe that as a minority religion in this country that it should be protected. But what also is interesting is then you have stories of people in Pakistan that have done the same thing for churches. And that's what we want to see, is that we protect one another. And that's why these groups are so important, because once you realize that they're human just like you, once you
Mhm.
realize that they want that freedom of religion just like you, then that should be the right that we're fighting for globally. And that's why we really are doing what we're doing, is that we want to protect the rights of everyone in America to have the freedom of their conscience to worship how they want, even if we disagree with them. But we need that in every country and every place. And so we're asking Muslims and Jews and atheists and communists and no matter what country and religion and background, to to begin agreeing that this is a human right that's global, and that no one should be put in jail or have houses of worship burned down or spray painted or threatened. No matter where you live in this planet, you should have the ability to worship as you please. And so that is, that's the dream, that's the vision. That's why we go in and out of countries. That's why we do what we do even here locally. And we're continuing to pray and advance this mission and this cause.
Dr. Scott, that brings us end of our show. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure to have you. Last 30 seconds, your closing remarks.
It's an honor to be here, and I would just encourage everyone to take the step to go across that bridge that is before you, to engage with someone of another faith that is different than you, thinks different than you, and build that friendship. You won't regret it. It'll make this world a better place.
Absolutely. I think you have nailed it. And that's the message for all of us, that we need to just break the ice, go across the aisle, shake hand, talk, take them out for a cup of coffee, have a meal together, and then undertake community projects that can lead us to better community, better citizen, productive community, productive citizen, so that we can have that stereotype that is out there to be undone. And that brings us to the end of our show. Hopefully, we will work together, continues to work together to make our world a better place to live. Thank you very much. Until next time, Take good care of yourself. Bye now.
Thank you, Mujeeb.